Hello everyone, and welcome back everyone, and especially congratulations to everyone who came to this video by clicking on the first link in the description in the previous video, as this is now the Armageddon game between Magnus Carlsen and Viswanathan Anand. They drew their classical game in the first round of the Altibox Norway Championship, so now Carlsen gets 10 minutes on the clock, Anand gets 7 minutes, but to win, Anand either has to, just draw the game or win the game. He can't lose, and Carlsen has to win the game. That's how Armageddon works. So without further ado, let's just check it out. In this game, Carlsen doesn't go for the Queen's Gambit decline, but rather he tries with c4, the English opening, and Anand replies with e5. We have knight to c3, and now comes bishop to b4. We have knight to d5 now, attacking the bishop, forcing it to move back, and bishop to e7 by Anand. And now d4. This is sort of a new line that's being tested now. E captures on d4, queen captures on d4, and now knight to f6. So they really have to, be fast, especially Anand, as he only has 7 minutes on the clock. We have knight captures on e7 by Carlsen, queen captures, and now bishop to g5. And it's a system that Carlsen's second in the World Chess Championship match between Carlsen and Caruana Daniel Dubov plays, so it's very interesting. Maybe they've even worked on it together. Knight to c6, pushing the queen back, queen to c3, and now comes knight to e5. A nice centralized square for the knight. Also, if the knight comes to f3, Anand will have the option of just exchanging it, which Carlsen does. We have knight to f3. And it's interesting that in this position, a known move is f3 and g3. It's a known game, Daniel Dubov versus Erdos, where g3 was played and Dubov was able to win this game. But here, knight to f3 is a new move by Carlsen, which I'm sure did not come as a pleasant surprise to Anand, but Anand did not spend any time here, so maybe he was even prepared. I don't know. I haven't seen the interview after the game. If any of you have, do share in the comments. We have d6 defending the knight, and now e3 by Carlsen, saying, okay, if you want to trade here, I'm just gonna trade back with the g pawn, and I'm very happy with this position. Maybe I'm gonna even castle queenside, as I do have to go for a win here. We have h6 pushing the bishop back, bishop to h4, and now even g5 by Anand. And here, before retreating, Carlsen decides to play knight captures on e5, which allows Anand a very nice tactic, but Anand missed it. It's not a deadly tactic or anything. It just allows Anand to exchange everything and go to a perfectly equal endgame, which would be very favorable to him, as it is an Armageddon and he has to draw this. So here Anand had to go for knight to e4, attacking the queen, and then Carlsen would go knight to c6, opening up an attack against the rook here, but then you just trade everything. Knight captures, here you would go king captures on e7, and now bishop to g3, as you don't want to lose your dark square bishop. Knight goes here, and now it's like I said, it's a equal position. White does have the bishop pair for the moment, but Anand will be able to eliminate the bishop on g3, or if Carlsen doesn't push it away with f3, then Anand's just going to have a super powerful knight here. So this is what Anand should have gone for, but after knight captures on e5, seems Carlsen managed to somewhat trick him. Anand recaptured, and now just bishop to g3. So here Carlsen keeps the bishop pair, and it is a somewhat better position, especially with so much material left on the board. His chances of winning are immediately much higher. Knight to d7, and now just h4. Carlsen wants to open lines. He doesn't allow Anand to consolidate. With g4, Anand of course wants to close lines, and now c5. A nice move by Carlsen, not allowing black to play b6 and develop this bishop on b7. And the idea is, if you trade here, then after bishop captures on e5, you've basically traded your c pawn for your e pawn. Plus your rook is under attack. After the rook moves, you're going to lose the c7 pawn. And with, here with Carlsen having the bishop pair and being up a pawn, it would be, again, a much better position for him. So, after c5 with h5, completely blocking off the king side, and now Carlsen just continues developing. Rook to c1, and now c6, not allowing this pawn to be pushed further, and also controlling the d5 square. Knight to f6 to d5 is the idea for Anand. With bishop to d3 by Carlsen, now comes castles by Anand, and Magnus also castles here. With rook to e8, now this pawn will be nicely supported. The knight is coming to d5, and this pawn is going to be pushed to e4, and Anand will try to create a blockade on the e and both d and e file. We have rook f to d1 by Carlsen, and now knight to f6 going after his plan. Bishop back to b1. We have knight to d5, and now queen to c2. And here e4 as planned, and now as this bishop no longer has any purpose here, you're not very likely to remove this pawn to get some queen h7 action in. Magnus will go a3 and transfer this bishop over to a2. We have rook to d4, now putting even more pressure on this pawn here, and here Anand defends it with f5, just nicely cementing that pawn on e4. We have a3, preparing to develop the bishop here, but also starting to push the pawns on the queen side. Bishop to e6 by Anand, and now rook c to d1. Now transferring the pressure over to the d file, because after b4, a4, and b5 is played, you want to remove the defender of the knight on d5 and have a lot of pressure on the d file. We have rook a to d8 by Anand, and now bishop to a2, getting this bishop on this very nice diagonal. Rook to d7, and now finally b4, Carlsen starts pushing on the queen side. We have a6, and now comes a4. Rook e to d8, Anand also wants to control the d file, but now b5. A captures on b5, a captures on b5, and now Anand had to play king to f7 or king to g7, just either help out with the defense on e6 or just get the king out of this diagonal. But here he played knight to f6, and he allowed Carlsen a very nice move. Here also Carlsen infiltrates with the rook to d6, and here the rook is very nicely defended by both the bishop and the rook here, and by the pawn on c5, and also it goes with a double attack against the bishop on e6. So Anand first trades. We have bishop captures, queen captures with check, queen blocks with f7, and now queen to a5, again putting a lot of pressure on this queen side and a lot of pressure on the d file as well. So rook captures on d6, c captures on d6. Now Carlsen created a passed d pawn. We have queen to d7 blocking, and now just a nice trade on c6. Captures, and now rook to b1. Now Carlsen's plan is queen to c7, and he wants to bring the rook either to b7 or even to b8, depending on what black plays. Anand plays rook to f8, and here queen to c7. And now you can't trade. If you trade, it's a very dangerous passed c pawn. Whatever black plays doesn't really matter. Just rook b8, as the pawn is nicely protected on c7. There's no way to defend this position. So after queen c7, we have rook to f7 by Anand, and now just rook b8 check. King to h7, and here bishop to e5, threatening to remove the defender of the queen. Just bishop captures on f6 is a threat, and also if the knight moves, which was played in the game, Anand tried knight d5 with an attack on the queen, but now Carlsen has rook to h8 check. We have king to g6, and now queen to b8, getting the queen out of the way, and of course hoping to infiltrate here with queen to g8. We have knight back to f6, defending the g8 square, but now Carlsen has a very nice tactic, so feel free to pause the video here and try to find the best move for white in this position. I'll give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent spotter of winning tactics in Armageddon games. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, bishop captures on f6. It's now quite obvious, of course, because after rook captures, now you get queen g8 check, and after queen g7, you can just push d7, and there's no stopping this pawn anymore. The queen is pinned. If you trade, again, you cannot stop it, as the rook would be controlling it. So here, Anand played king captures on f6, and now rook to h6 check. Here we have king to e5, and here Magnus played queen to h8 check. If you found all of this, of course, even greater congratulations, as it was in this position on move 43 that Anand resigned the game. Whatever he does doesn't work. If you move the king, just queen d4 is checkmate in one, and if you block, just let's say rook g7, then rook h7 wins. King f7, king f6, yes, you do defend the rook, but here white can just trade, captures, and of course d7 is winning. There is no stopping this passed pawn. So of course Anand saw all this, and here after queen h8 check, Anand decided to resign, and a very nice Armageddon victory for Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces. So I don't know, it's very interesting. How do you enjoy this classical event? But it's also not just a classical event, but a classical Armageddon event. So I don't know.
really, really just like I said, it's not the first time they attempted this format, but I don't know if I enjoy it. I will have to go through the entire tournament and then see if it's nice, or should I cover both the classical and the Armageddon game, or maybe just figure out. Maybe just one of them, I don't know. This is round one, I decided to show both the classical and Armageddon game, and I will also show one other perhaps game from round one tomorrow morning before round two starts. But yeah, I still have to decide. But I'm very interested. How are you enjoying this format, and do you think it's an improvement? Will players have maybe they will try harder to win in classical time formats, especially some players who don't really enjoy the quicker time formats, or is it just is it just maybe we should just consider it to be a classical event with some bonus games being played after the main game. So really just interested in your opinions. And someone asked me, do I even read the comments? Yes, I pretty much read all the comments, especially when I wake up in the morning, I have some coffee, and then I enjoy reading the comments. So feel free to share. But yeah, once again, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be showing one more game, so we're going to then check out the standings. I would like to thank Vasily Kara for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the Altibox Norway Championship, and, well, maybe deciding on what to do, maybe if I get time during the Norway Altibox Championship. So, thank you all. I will see you soon. Have an excellent rest of your day.